Hello everyone, welcome on into today's video. In today's topic, we will be discussing some of the craziest and most popular Marvel fan theories, ranging from Captain America being Star-Lord's grandpa to Hydra being the reason the X-Men don't exist in the main MCU timeline. Thanks for tuning in, and let's jump right on into it. Our first theory is that Wolverine gave Thanos his scars on his face. This one, as stupid as it sounds, makes a little sense. Back in 2018, when one of the Infinity War trailers released, people noticed that Thanos had 3 scars on his face. These scars look reminiscent to something Wolverine would give to his enemies. So many people went on to say that Wolverine could possibly appear in Avengers Infinity War. Obviously, this never happened, and it wouldn't have made a ton of sense if they decided to go through with this detail. Although I hope they reveal in a future project how exactly Thanos got those scars. Stan Lee is an older version of Steve Rogers. After the release of Avengers Endgame, some fans theorized that Stan Lee was actually Steve Rogers. This doesn't make a lot of sense considering that the older version of Steve in Endgame doesn't look like Stan Lee. However, many fans like to still think that Stan Lee is actually Steve looking out for his friends throughout the Infinity Saga. Ned will become the Hobgoblin in Spider-Man No Way Home. This one is just stupid in my opinion. Basically, before the release of No Way Home, fans theorized that Ned would turn evil at some point during the film and take on the mantle of Hobgoblin. In the comics, Ned Leeds does become Hobgoblin, but I believe the MCU version of Ned Leeds doesn't fit that particular trait at all. Loki and Sylvie are siblings. I personally kind of believe this one. If you think about it, Sylvie and Loki both have the same frost giant parents, so therefore they have the same blood, making them siblings. This is why a lot of people dislike Loki and Sylvie's romantic relationship because it is technically incest. I think Marvel realized this before making Loki Season 2 because Loki and Sylvie didn't really have a romantic connection during Loki Season 2. Quicksilver is actually a mutant. As we know from WandaVision, Wanda isn't a real mutant. She got her powers from the Mind Stone, but we never saw a scene or reference to Pietro getting his powers from specifically the Mind Stone. So maybe he got his powers from a mutation. We know mutations exist in 616 due to the events of Ms. Marvel, so this theory actually does make some sense. Hydra is the reason the X-Men don't exist in Earth 616. This one is the most interesting one on the list in my opinion. Let me just explain it straight up to you. Basically, the X-Men don't exist in the main timeline because Hydra conquered Germany and stopped Hitler before he could begin the Holocaust. Therefore, Magneto was never imprisoned or experimented on, which also means Magneto never discovered his powers and never met Charles Xavier, aka Professor X. So therefore, the X-Men never formed without those two behind it. I'm iffy about this one for several reasons I won't go into just because I'll make the video long. Let me know what you think about this particular one in the comments. Vulture was a member of the Air Force and was good friends with Falcon. I like this theory, and I honestly think they should canonize it. Basically, the theory is that Adrian Toomes was a member of the US Air Force at an early stage of his life. He fought with Sam Wilson, and then two developed wings for the Air Force in order to help them on missions. Eventually, Adrian would go on to retire in the late 2000s so he could be closer to his family, and he would go on to start his own business cleaning up junk like we know from Spider-Man Homecoming. However, the retirement check and business may have not been enough for his family to survive on, so therefore then he goes into a life of crime. Eventually, he starts to get some form of PTSD from his time in the Air Force, which leads him on to become the Vulture. The biggest thing that connects this theory is Adrian and Sam developing a wingsuit together, considering that Vulture and Falcon have similar technology. I actually like this theory. Let me know what you think in the comments. Captain America dying in Civil War. In the comics, Steve Rogers gets sniped by Crossbones and dies in the comic iteration of Captain America's Civil War. So this led fans to believe that the MCU would copy this exact storyline from the comics. Obviously, this never happened, and I'm glad they didn't go through with it because Infinity War and Endgame would have never been the same without Steve Rogers. The little kid from Iron Man 3 is a variant of Kang the Conqueror. Many fans believe that the little kid from Iron Man 3 will eventually become Iron Lad, who's basically a young version of Iron Man in the comics. In the comics, Iron Lad is also a variant of Kang the Conqueror, so therefore people think there could be a connection. I'd personally kind of like to see this happen, but if they don't go through with it, then I won't be mad. The TVA killed 616 Captain America. Basically, Steve leaving his timeline to go to another one wasn't supposed to happen, therefore the TVA pruned it. and destroyed the entire timeline, killing 616 Steve. This theory just sucks in my opinion. Like, let the man have his happy ending. Although I will say there is another theory that Kang went to 616 Steve Rogers' new timeline to go kill him because he didn't like Steve Rogers traveling through timelines. Maybe Cap fought Kang and Cap hurt Kang bad, so Kang retreated out of Cap's new timeline. So the theory is that in Secret Wars, 616 Steve will return to finish one last mission and defeat Kang. That is a huge video in itself. Spider-Man making a deal with Mephisto in No Way Home. If you don't know already, Spider-Man No Way Home is loosely based off a comic called Spider-Man One More Day. This detail was leaked before No Way Home released, so many fans went on to say that No Way Home would end with Peter making a deal with Mephisto about his identity, mainly because in the ending of One More Day, Aunt May dies and Peter makes a deal with Mephisto to bring her back to life. Mephisto does bring Aunt May back to life, but the consequence was that Peter can no longer be with MJ or ever see her again. In a way, Sony kind of took some parts of that storyline in No Way Home with Doctor Strange and the whole forgetting things, but obviously never fully came to fruition. Doctor Strange Supreme from What If will be the main villain in Multiverse of Madness. Before the release of Multiverse of Madness, a trailer came out that featured an evil variant of Stephen Strange.
Things just got out of hand.
Many people went on to say that this version of Doctor Strange was the exact one from the Supreme Strange episode. This never happened, and the evil Strange from Multiverse of Madness is a completely different version, and his name is Sinister Strange according to a lot of Marvel merchandise. So Sinister Strange, Doctor Strange Supreme are two separate characters. And plus, Multiverse of Madness, spoiler alert, Sinister Strange dies, and then we know What If Season 2 takes place after Loki Season 2, and Loki Season 2 takes place after Multiverse of Madness, so yeah, things do not add up. Captain Marvel and Valkyrie are in some sort of romantic relationship. Ever since Valkyrie was what's confirmed to be bisexual, fans have been shipping Carol with Valkyrie. Carol isn't 100% confirmed to be LGBTQ, but many people believe that she's gay. Marvel actually addressed this theory in The Marvels when Valkyrie kisses Carol on the cheek, potentially setting up something between the two in future movies. Do this information as you please. I am simply reporting on what others think. Let's not start a big thing in the comments. Before we get into our next theory, please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the video so far. Thanks for tuning in. Our next theory is that Bucky killed Peter Parker's parents. I know this is a very popular theory around the Marvel community, but it just feels very forced. The theory is that Bucky killed Peter Parker's parents on behalf of Hydra in order to get some important scientific research that they had. Personally, I think it's too late in the MCU for this detail to become canonized, so this one's just a dud. Ant-Man is in a different universe following the events of Quantumania. After Scott left the quantum realm, some fans are speculating that Scott isn't back in the main timeline 616. Instead, he is in a completely different universe. The main reasoning fans have behind this is because the coffee store employee refers to Scott as Ant-Man instead of Spider-Man towards the end of the film. Because in the beginning of the film, the coffee store owner kept referring to Scott as Spider-Man. I hope this one isn't true because it would just make that film a lot more worse. Now our last theory is one of my favorites on this list. Captain America is Star-Lord's grandpa. Our last theory sounds like a bunch of baloney, but it makes a ton of sense in my opinion. This one may be a little hard to explain, so bear with me. Let me explain it to you in the simplest way. Basically, Steve does the dirty with this girl on his SOR trip during the Captain America the First Avenger film. That girl later has a daughter whose baby daddy is Steve Rogers. The daughter many years later falls in love with Ego. The two eventually have a kid who grows up to be Peter Quill. Now, where's my logic behind this, you may ask? Well, there's two things that really canonizes this. To start, the girl that Steve locks eyes with is the same actress who plays Ego's girlfriend. Same actress, two different characters. We've seen that happen multiple times in the MCU, so there's no issue there. Now, how do we know Steve clapped that girl's cheeks during his trip? Well, in the She-Hulk show, Jennifer makes fun of Steve Rogers for being a virgin. Bruce says he wasn't and that Steve lost it to a girl on his SOR trip in 1943. Here's the scene if you forgot.
He lost his virginity to a girl in 1943 on the USO tour.
Yes, I knew it.
You're not drunk?
Captain.
But yeah, this theory has to be one of just the best in the entire MCU. As stupid as it sounds, it's a banger. Anyways, that will conclude the video for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and please like and subscribe, like I said, for a part 2 of this video and more cool future Marvel content. I am in the process of pre-writing an MCU Avengers Secret Wars, so stay tuned for that banger. Anyways, have a good one, guys.